Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command World War II, World at War. It is March of 1940, the German invasion of the Low Countries has begun. France is hanging in there for the time being. The Germans are attacking Holland, which will probably fall next turn, and also Belgium as well. But they haven't really made any progress into France itself yet, and we do have a pretty thick line of defenses between them and us. I think the real challenge in this game is going to be how we effectively pull the British out of France when France is eventually on its last legs. Now, I'm hoping we can hold out in France for a couple more turns and make it into the late summer before the Germans actually achieve a true breakthrough, but obviously we'll see how things play out in our game. With that being said, we've already done our turn. We've already spent our money. And so now it's just a matter of... oh, shit. This guy's within bomber range. Hopefully they don't focus in on the carrier and they focus on the land stuff. But now it's time to move into the month of April and see how things unfold. French morale falls as positions in the Mediterranean are abandoned. They're really not, though. Looks like Italy is shipping... Italian shipping prepares for war in the Indian Ocean. Italy joins the Axis, and Italy declares war on the Allies. So the Italian government has joined the Axis powers. Meanwhile, engineers in China are completing fortifications in central China. Axis convoys are raiding UK convoys. Scientists are making progress with infantry weapons in India. And there you have it here. So it'll be interesting to see how the Italian declaration affects the war. They're not super strong, so I'm not too worried about an Italian blitzkrieg in the south, but my real goal is hopefully to see if we can use the French Navy to help obliterate the Italians here before we lose the French Navy and the war shifts. So you can see here some Italian naval vessels making some attacks on some Allied naval vessels here already. Some Italian heavy cruisers attacking an isolated French heavy cruiser. An Italian battleship is attacking a French battleship. Most of the vessels that are engaged so far have actually been French vessels. So, ooh, we just lost a cruiser. So, frankly, I'm more okay with that as a result. But you can see a large-scale naval battle being fought at the southern tip of Italy. I think in the end, we will lose heavy casualties there, but we can win, and I think if we destroy the Italian Navy altogether, that'll go a long way toward lowering French national morale and hopefully knocking France out of the war. Meanwhile, you can see here in the Low Countries, the German offensive continues, bombing of Amsterdam, destroying our Air Force unit there for the Dutch, damaging the ground units near Amsterdam itself, and also destroying some units in Belgium as well. You can see Antwerp is going to fall, Amsterdam is going to fall. Actually, well, we'll see if The Hague falls. They attacked, but they didn't actually take it yet, so if they can swap units around, then they may take The Hague. But otherwise, the Dutch nation may withstand one more turn. I think... Looks like Brussels should probably hold one more turn as well, so Belgium should hang in through the end of April and then probably fall at the beginning of May. And France, hopefully that means France should survive until June-ish, maybe longer, I don't know, we'll see. Meanwhile, the Japanese continue their offensives in China, but they're not making a ton of progress. The south of China actually is not going very well for the Japanese. Central and northern China is a little bit of a different story, but we'll have to see what the actual situation looks like once our turn begins. Okay. I don't know if we can effectively destroy these Italian ships if they're in port, but at least this one heavy cruiser appears to be not in port. German troops automatically get to take Denmark over because of the event. Also, Norway apparently just auto-falls to the Germans. The U.S. is concerned over Axis aggression in Norway, which moves them closer to the Allies. Wang Jingwei takes up office in Nanjing. The Japanese are forming a puppet government in Nanjing, in China. The Anglo-French expedition returns from Finland, so we get additional units. German forces secure Narvik, Oslo, Trondheim, Bergen, Stavanger, and Christenland. Winston Churchill orders Operation Valentine to secure the Faroe Islands. Norwegian forces damage the rail network as they retire into the hinterland. Demonstrations against Danish government cause disruption in Reykjavik. Norwegian batteries in Oslo Ford inflict casualties on the German invasion forces. and Allied raiders disrupting German-Norwegian convoys. Quisling proclaims himself as Prime Minister of Norway. A whole bunch of events just triggered there. I guess that's the one thing that's... The way this game works, it makes it a little bit difficult to really model the conflict in Norway because it just automatically falls to the Germans, so they can start their invasion of France with no diversion of resources. They can start it early because they don't actually have to divert anything to Norway, as historically I believe they did. Meanwhile, convoy disruptions, in fact, 16 MPPs against the Germans. I didn't see if we lost anything. The expedition we sent to Finland has returned, and the troops are now arriving in Inverness in Scotland, where they'll be deployed as a Strength 8 Special Forces unit. It might be worthwhile sending them to Narvik in Norway to retake the town from the Germans before they're able to fully establish themselves there. This will only cost 10 MPP, and if Narvik is liberated, our national morale will receive a 500-point boost. Being a Special Forces unit, they could evacuate by sea without requiring a port should the expedition prove unsuccessful. If you don't wish to send this unit to Norway, it will remain in Inverness for service elsewhere. The mission has a fairly low probability of success, and none at all if the French don't also send forces to Narvik. Providing some naval support is recommended, particularly some cruisers to launch or carriers to launch airstrikes against the German forces defending Narvik. But even so, it will not be easy to take and hold Narvik. So we'll get 500 national morale points, which would be nice, but I think having the forces remaining in England would be ideal. And then you can see her also. Oh well, it's too late. I'm not going to send the French to Norway by themselves, as much as maybe that would be advisable. Meanwhile, the U.S. is getting some ships, carriers. Should we put them in the Pacific? I think we will. Okay. All right. So first things first. Let's hunt for the Italian battle fleet. Okay, so we just discovered it. That's the Hood. That's a British carrier, actually, or battle cruiser. Alright, so that thing's down to 4 health. So we're going to send subs after the battleship. Then we're going to go ahead and send our destroyers after the battleship. Finish it off. Oh, come on. Taking a little bit of damage as we run over some enemy subs. Really? Okay. We'll switch these guys over to set mode Naval. 231101. We'll go for the... Okay, so there's going to be enemy interceptors in Italy. We'll do some damage to the German Air Force there. You can see our carrier did suffer some damage back. Oh, fuck, I didn't mean to click on that. Well, our air wing just got ravaged pretty badly. We did a little bit of damage to the enemy sub, though. Let's switch this guy over to Naval as well. Is there anyone at Taranto? Okay, so we just discovered another enemy battleship. We'll send our other carrier's air wing against it. Can I not go after him? Alright, we'll send him after this cruiser. Very nice. Oh, we almost destroyed that battleship. Damn it. I can't hurt him very much because he's in port. Do I have any other ships coming up here? No. So the fact that he's in port gives him a lot of protection from us. God, I keep taking damage by running over that enemy sub. Alright, so... Why is my cruiser taking damage from bombarding enemy things at sea? Or not at sea, but... Hey, we discovered another enemy ship. It's too bad I, like, divided my forces way too much. Okay. So we almost destroyed this battleship. We did destroy, I think, what, 1 or 2 cruisers and enemy ships? So we did do some damage. But we're pretty disrupted over here. Alright, so let's go after Ethiopia. Okay, pull him back, move him forward. Alright, we're advancing kind of on all sides here against the Italians in Ethiopia. Hopefully we're going to overwhelm them. That's the objective here. We've got garrison units on the offensive. We've got regular infantry units on the offensive. We've got a headquarter unit in support. They've got troops at Gondar, but they've also got 1 corps at Addis Ababa, and a headquarters unit there as well. Massawa is the capital of Italian. So this section should be able to more easily able to be taken, and then we can focus on Ethiopia itself. That's the only other Italian possession over here. I don't have any naval forces nearby that are really going to be able to assist much. We could move this armored car unit forward a little bit. Move this artillery forward a bit. The infantry as well. Leave anti-aircraft in Cairo. Kind of slowly advance on Libya. Okay, so that's southern France. The Italians apparently do have some strength here. I don't know, let's see here. Where do we need to reinforce? Let's swap these guys out. They're not going to have entrenchment, but at least they have better morale. Okay, we'll reinforce these guys. Also, the British fighters should be reinforced. The bombers I'm going to pull back to England. They can't do much here, it doesn't seem. Love to do some damage to these tanks just as a spoiling attack. So Holland will fall. Belgium may fall next turn. These guys are building, right? Oh, they're not. I mean, they're not going to finish in time, but we'll put them there. I wonder if we can take, like, Copenhagen by a bold stroke with our French special forces. It's going to use them almost all of their money, though. So rather than that, let's reinforce him. We'll advance. Alright, so we're trying to defend in the south of France. I have 3 armies here. Nice. I mean, I just took some casualties by attacking this armor, but I think I did weaken him a little bit. Swap this core out here, attack there. Nice. Another one. Alright, I'm also going to pull our bombers back to England. Mainly just I don't think they can do much good where they're at. We'll see if our tactical French bombers can do anything against this armor. They can. Very solid. Alright, so we actually did a fair bit of damage against this German armored unit. Granted, they have multiple ones, but that's the armored unit currently as the spearhead on their forces, so maybe that'll slow them down a little bit. This Belgian unit will stay in its fortifications and hopefully be able to hold out. They'll have to use at least one attack up on the Dutch at The Hague. We'll pull our carrier back here. Meanwhile, we will move some of our ships forward here to bombard the Germans on the shore. At least, hopefully, do some damage to their supply lines, maybe? We are taking some damage, which is probably not the most effective use of our naval strength, perhaps. Yeah, maybe we should stop that. We're bombarding Amsterdam itself, though, which its supply is taking a little bit of a hit, but nothing they can't recover from. If I up these guys to full strength, I don't know how that impacts the actual French troops or not. Jeez, that guy's gonna break through. He's got a level 11 strength army. Alright, so we're advancing against the Italians there. Trying to deal with the Italian Navy down here. Makes me wonder if we could make like a lightning strike on Rome and knock Italy out of the war really early on and just fuck with them, but I'm not sure how practical that is. Meanwhile, where are our ships? So this French battleship is going to race back to get to the Mediterranean while this battle is ongoing. I thought I had another ship over here. Maybe I already moved it back. Oh, no, he's over here. So move him here. I mean, the British, honestly, I'd rather spend their money on research right now. They're spending 1,900 of a potential 2,000, so actually it doesn't look like I can increase my spending much at all. Maybe just on logistics. Actually, can we do production technology? No. What about spying? No. Amphibious warfare? That probably eventually is nice, but we'll go with... No, it can't do armored warfare. Anti-tank weapons? We can do that. Right, so that'll max out our British R&D spend. So I think what that means we'll do is we'll spend our remaining points on some reinforcements here for some of our troops. Get our attack bombers and other things like that up. Meanwhile, the Americans have 233, so we're going to research some stuff with them too. We'll research advanced tanks with the money we have with them. They're almost... Actually, no, they've got another 1,000 they can invest. The Russians have 130 to invest. But I can't afford it on any of this stuff, so we're going to hold off there. Meanwhile, we've started reforming a new position, I think, behind this river line. We'll leave this garrison forward at the city, but we're going to move the rest of these troops back behind the river. I don't think I have enough troops as the Russians. That's the problem. I don't know really when I start to get more. I'll have to take a look at that. But we're going to try and put our troops behind. I think this is the Dnieper River. Actually, no, I should have moved him here. This is another river. It goes north. That way we can defend west of Smolensk. I don't know. It's like you can defend through Smolensk or you can defend in front of Smolensk. I think I'll try and defend in front of Smolensk. There's also got to be like an event at some point this year where we get the Low Countries, I think. They're not the Low Countries, the Baltics. But the good thing is, because of the way the Finnish war went, I don't think we actually have to deal with the Finns. Okay. So move this fighter over here. All right, so I think that does it for the Russians then. This will probably only be a one-turn episode, guys. And now we need to go ahead and take a look at the Chinese, who are the one power that's fighting that we haven't really done anything with. These guys are at strength 4. So I think we'll just reinforce them in their current position. I really would rather be spending money on R&D, but I am trying to keep my strength up too. So we're being forced to spend a lot of money on just replacements. I'm curious. Trying to threaten to cut these guys off. Maybe they'll fall back, or at least switch their attack east against this core that's in open ground. Okay, those headquarters are all at full strength. Eek. This guy's gonna kill us. You know, all these guys are cut off. Okay. Nice. Good result there for him. Nice. An attack on Canton that goes reasonably well. I'm going to pull these guys back as well as soon as I can. But it looks like we spent all our money as China, and we also just kind of are holding the line. At least that's the objective anyway. No other attacks that I really want to make right now. So maybe we'll actually... I don't know if I want to do another full turn. Let's take a look at the graphs right now. Actually, pretty even distribution of strength right now in the game. 40 land units for Japan makes them actually the strongest land power, which is pretty interesting. Russia has 32, but it doesn't feel like it. Germany is 34. So Germany, 34, Japan, 40, Italy, 23. That makes the Axis powers considerably stronger early game than the Allies. We've got 31 units in China, 32 Russian units that are neutral, 25 French that are glass-jawed and are going to die very fast, 33 British, and 7 American who can't really do anything yet. Air units actually favor the British and the Germans. The Germans have 8, the British have 5. Japan only has, surprisingly, 3 air units, although they have a fair bit of air strength mixed up in their carriers. The British have 27 naval units, which by far makes them the most powerful naval force. In fact, if you combine everybody else, there's only a slight advantage for the Axis globally. But the British have a much stronger naval force. In fact, I think one thing that I am going to do is I'm going to send one of these cruisers to the Mediterranean. So we've got a French battleship and a British destroyer heading to the Mediterranean. We're going to send a British cruiser to the Mediterranean as well. And then I also think we're going to send a sub that way too, mainly because I want to try and destroy those ships in harbor, and subs can do that in a way that battleships simply can't. So we'll send some subs down there. I don't know if these Dutch ships will stick around once the war is over for them next turn. I guess we'll see. But yeah, that about does it for most of our turn, I think. There's 14 hit points left, or points left. It's not quite enough to transport these forces in South Africa. We can spend it to reinforce one of them, but I want to pull these 2 corps out of South Africa, and I want to move them elsewhere. Additionally, we haven't really touched the Australian forces yet, but there are considerable Australian and New Zealand forces on Australia and New Zealand. We've got a corps here at Sydney. We've got some naval vessels in the area. I think we've only got one Australian corps, and then we've got one New Zealand corps as well. But those are forces we need to try and use here before too long. The thing is, Japan isn't at war with the British yet, so we can't really use them in the Pacific. But I don't want to vacate the Pacific in favor of. I don't want to vacate the Pacific in favor of the Oh my God, the words. The words. I can't think of the words in favor of Europe knowing that Japan will eventually attack us. We've got 3 British corps on the Malay Peninsula, all under strength, but if we can upgrade them with some money here, they may prove useful. And I think we'll get this garrison out of Kunming and move it toward the front. Do we have any other forces in western China? No. Russia also has some strength here on the border with Japan. I don't think there's any sort of like, you need to keep these troops on the Japanese border, or otherwise you're going to be screwed. There is that sort of an element in when you play as the Axis, where it's like you've got to keep these troops here basically, or you're done for. So in that event, I think I'm going to spend a little bit of money to operate these guys back to the west, so we've got more forces to deal with the Germans. Not all of them, but at least some of them. To deal with the Germans in the when the eventual attack does come. Historically, they did shift a bunch of troops from Siberia to the front lines, and so we're going to do a little bit of that here today. Spend some vital MPPs, so I'm only going to do 2, so when our next income comes, we still have enough to do some research and development. Meanwhile, I am going to leave this 1 corps here west of the river at Dnipropetrovsk so they can fortify themselves, and we're going to move another corps into the city of Kiev as well, also west of the river. I'm assuming attacking across the river is more difficult. If that's wrong, that's a big mistake, because we could substantially shorten our lines by not defending in front of the river. Like if we move these guys here and here, we could move these 3 units, and then that would free up 2 additional units to extend the line further north. So, I mean, these are things we'll have to think about as we get closer to the eventual German attack on the Russians. But for now, I mean, they're things to consider but not stress overly too much about. Okay, move this guy to Novgorod. And I think that's going to do it for this turn. If we take a look at diplomacy, we don't have any money with anybody else. We do have a little bit of money with France. But diplomacy with anybody is too expensive. It's 150. We can bring... Belgium's already... Why is it... Or no, that's Bulgaria. They're already 70% Axis. Burma's 65% allies. We could send some diplomats there with our French MPPs. I just have a feeling we're going to need those MPPs in the coming turns to reinforce these troops as we take losses to try and hold France as long as we can. What's our national morale in France right now, if we take a look at the graph? It's fallen pretty steadily. We're at 70. The British are still at over 100, actually. Germany's national morale is a little over 100. Italy is actually below 100, and Japan is at 90. MPPs? Income for Japan, pretty steady at about 320. The Italians are at about a little less than 100. They've lost over 800 worth just this turn. The Germans have lost more than their income as well. Oh, no, they didn't. That's what they've spent. Their income is at 250. I really kind of made a mistake by not including India in the war at first. It might come to pay dividends politically later, but for the moment, anyway, it was a mistake. And yeah, that's the situation right now. So we'll see how things play out. I'm going to move these special forces south from Inverness, so at least we've got some troops in Britain should Italy, or when France falls. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. That's going to do it. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying, as always, thank you for watching. And until next time, we're out.